At day 2 of arithmetic sequences, we're going to find missing terms in a sequence and how many terms are in the sequence, as well as looking at some application problems. So our first example is we're looking for the arithmetic means between -12 and 16. So what that means is the terms between those two. So when it tells us there are 3 arithmetic means, that means there are 3 terms that are missing in the sequence between -12 and 16. So I have the sequence set up. -12 is our first term, 3 terms we don't know, and then 16 is our 5th term. So the first step in finding those terms is figuring out what the common difference is. So we're going to use our explicit formula for arithmetic sequences, which is t sub 5 in this case, because we know our 5th term, equals t sub 1 plus 4d. Remember, there's 2 ways to get this 4. Either n minus 1 from the formula, and n is 5 because we have 5 terms, or you can just look at the way you set up the sequence. We'll be adding d once, twice, 3 times, 4 times to get 16. So that's where that 4 comes from. So now we'll substitute what we know. Our 5th term is 16. Our first term is -12. And we need to solve for that common difference. So we add 12 to both sides and divide by 4. So our common difference is that we are adding 7 to each term. So I'm going to go back up to the top and fill those in. -12 plus 7 is -5, plus 7 is 2, plus 7 is 9, and 9 plus 7 does equal 16. Alright, so now we know the 3rd term and the 6th term, and we want the 10th term. So step 1 you can skip if you've got step 2 figured out, but for some people who are visual learners, you might like to see this written out. So we've got our 1st and 2nd terms are unknown, 3rd term is 4, 4th term and 5th term are unknowns, and 6th term is -5, so those are what we are missing. So to find the common difference, this time I'm going to use -5 equals 4 plus 1, 2, 3 common differences. Subtracting 4 from both sides and dividing by 3, we have a common difference of -3, or subtracting 3 between each term. So there's a couple of different ways to find the 10th term. We're on term 6, we could just subtract 3 a few more times, or we can use our explicit formula now that we know the common difference. So the 10th term is the first term, which we don't know, so we would have to add 3 to get back to the first term. So it might just be easier, now that I think about it, to fill in those missing terms. So this was term 6. So we will subtract 3 a few more times and get -17 for our 10th term. The next example we're looking at is determining how many terms are in an arithmetic sequence, knowing the first few terms and the last term. So we need to figure out what the common difference is in order to find that missing information. So we're going to set up what we know. We know the first term is 121. And looking at my terms, I'm subtracting 4 each time, so that's my common difference. N is what we don't know, that's what we need to solve for. But we do know that our last term is -19. Alright, so we substitute all of that into the formula. So our last term is -19. Our first term is 121. Our common difference is -4. And we're looking for a number of terms. So simplifying, I'm going to distribute the -4. Combine my like terms. Sorry if my writing looks weird, my calibration is way off. Subtracting 125 from both sides. And then dividing both sides by 4. I'm getting 38. So it looks like there are 38 terms in our sequence. Last one, we're going to take a look at the depreciation of a car. Typically, a car would depreciate by a percentage, but in this case, it's depreciating by $150 per month. So we need to figure out what the value of the car will be after 5 years. So we start by writing the explicit formula. Remember, that's T sub n equals T sub 1 plus D times n minus 1. Substituting in what we know our first term is 25,000. Our common difference is negative 150 because it's depreciating in value. So distributing our negative 150 and combining like terms, we have an explicit formula of 25,150 minus 150n. Remember, it said that it depreciates 150 per month, so our n is months. The question was, what's the value after 5 years? So we want to make sure we adjust for that when we're figuring out our last answer. All right, so our final answer would be T sub, let's see, 5 times 12 would give us 60. So we're looking for our 60th term. So that would be 25,150 minus 150 times 60. And I do not have a calculator in front of me, so I'm sure you guys can figure that out fairly easily.